Today's video is all about 10 out of 10 fragrances that I feel are truly underrated. So if you want to find out more, then please keep on watching. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's the first time you are visiting. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Hayley and I review fragrances. So as already mentioned in the intro, today's video is going to be all about 10 out of 10 fragrances that I feel are truly underrated. And at first I was putting this list together of underrated fragrances, and when I was compiling my list, I started to realize that I also felt like all of these were a 10 out of 10. So that's where this whole kind of theme came from. So I guess without further ado, let's just jump straight into the first fragrance. The first fragrance is Amouage Lineage, and I have absolutely adored this fragrance since the launch. This was part of the Odyssey collection, or is part of the Odyssey collection, and a very popular fragrance. Amouage Guidance is also part of this collection. But this was always my favorite, and I truly feel like this one is underrated. It's so special and very unique in my opinion. And I don't really want to talk about the notes of this fragrance. Of course, I will mention some of them, but I more so want to tell you how this makes me feel when I wear it. So I'm going to set the scene a little bit. This reminds me of being somewhere in the Middle East. I don't quite know where, but I am in the Middle East and I am by a freshwater lake. There is a cool breeze in the air, and the air is filled with a freshness yet salty feeling from the freshwater lake. I am surrounded by a forest of some sort, and there is some type of incense flowing through the air. Maybe that's from a nearby house or restaurant or something like that, but I can smell some kind of resinous, incensey smoke in the air. I am getting a green woody vibe from the forests around me, but what I mostly get is that kind of fresh, salty feel, and then that kind of smoky incense creeping in. It has this juxtaposition that I can't quite explain between cool and warm, but I get a salty kind of marine feeling from this. But the most prominent note is the myrrh. Very rich, warm, and resinous. Absolutely adore it in this fragrance. There's some olibanum too. There's definitely a greenness. It's not too green at all. And then I get this kind of fresh, salty, green vibe. It's incredibly special. It smells like a Middle Eastern fragrance, but a fresh take on it. And I just absolutely adore this one. If you've never tried Lineage, because of the notes maybe were a little bit scary or you didn't think you would like it, I would highly recommend testing this one out. I will try to find somewhere that sells a sample and link it down below. But this also has incredible longevity, as most Amouage fragrances do. It has that beast mode quality of Guidance, but it also has a freshness too. I've probably talked about this one for too long, but I truly feel like this is a very special fragrance. It's a 10 out of 10 for me, and I would love to know if any of you have tried this one and feel the same about it as I do. The next fragrance is from Jusbox, and this one is called Carioca Heart. And I guess I might be cheating a little bit with this one because it's a new fragrance. I think it's only been out a couple of months, so can it be underrated? I don't know. It's a new fragrance. However, I feel like this brand as a whole is pretty underrated. So I'm going to include this one in this video because it's a 10 out of 10 and I want to speak about it. I had a few of you recommending that I try this one in the comments, and oh my wow. This is incredibly special, an absolute 10 out of 10 for me. It's probably going to be a staple in the spring and summer. I can imagine me wearing this a lot when it gets a little bit warmer. This could be my favorite mango fragrance of all time. That's a big statement. I have some mango fragrances in my collection that I absolutely adore, but there is something so special about this one. It's intoxicating to me. I adore this. I wore it 3 days in a row. I couldn't get enough of it. It's really, really strong. It lasts all day. You don't need to overspray this one. But it is mango. It's a very smooth, juicy mango. A little bit tart and sour too. and there's some pineapple in here, but there's a very sweet peony note, and the juxtaposition between the florals and then that mango and pineapple is incredible to me. You get a musk in the dry down too, and then you get lots of vanilla, very smooth, sweet vanilla. There's some ambroxan in here, which gives this the most insane scent trail and helps this project. And there's also some rum in here. I highly recommend you get your noses on this one if you adore a mango fragrance, because it gives me a similar vibe to Stefan Humbert Lucas' God of Fire. However, they do go in slightly different directions. God of Fire has this zesty kind of zinginess from the ginger and the bite. I would say this one is way more creamy. Obviously, you've got quite a lot more vanilla. I say obviously like everyone sampled it, but it's got a lot more vanilla. And then that ambroxan and that rum and the peony, it just takes this in a different direction, and it's blown my mind. Still very new to my collection, but it's a 10 out of 10. It's gonna be a spring summer hit for me, and I would recommend that you sample this one if you like the sound of the notes. Next up is Zenobia by Tomavicci, and how extravagant is this bottle? I feel like Tomavicci is an underrated brand. I see people talking about it on Instagram, but not so much on here or on TikTok. And as soon as I saw the notes of this one, I knew I had to try it. And when it arrived, it was love at first sniff. It had me a little bit in a chokehold. It is exactly the type of scent profile I like when I want to feel empowered, feminine, sexy, all of those kind of things. And it just gave me all of the vibes. So in essence, it's a fruity floral with a saffron oud leather mix in the base, but I don't get too much oud and leather, I have to say. Only in the dry down, and that's in the deep dry down, and still then it's not super prominent to me because I get mostly the rich sweet notes all the way through to the dry down. I almost get this caramelized vibe. I don't believe there's any caramel listed in here, but I get a caramel note. I also get lots of blackcurrant in the opening, very, very juicy, and then a mixture of soft yet sweet florals. I get orange blossom, I definitely get rose. I get caramel, I definitely get caramel. Maybe peony. This is so sexy, honestly. But the thing that ties this all together and tips it over the edge and makes it a 10 out of 10 is the saffron. It's smooth yet spicy. It's warm yet a little bit cooling. And this is a sexy fragrance through and through. But yeah, I think so many of you will like this one. I am going to give a reference of a fragrance that maybe it smells a little bit similar to, or maybe a couple of fragrances, so you know what kind of vibe this is. So it has a slight similarity to Xerjoff's La Capitale and also Venom Incarnate, but they are a little bit different because La Capitale and Venom Incarnate have a strawberry note or berries within the fruitiness, whereas this, of course, has that blackcurrant. And I would say this has more florals in here. And this one has less oud and less leather than those fragrances, to my nose at the very least. Of course, sample first, it's just what I am getting. But yeah, I feel like this one is very underrated. It's still quite new, so again, I don't know, is it underrated? But to me, it's a 10 out of 10 and I highly recommend this one. Next up, we have Ambre Superfluide, and this is another fragrance that was love at first sniff. Totally obsessed with this one. In essence, it is a boozy tobacco honey fragrance with spices in there. It's vanillic and it is an absolute 10 out of 10 for me. I adore this one. One of the best fragrances in this kind of scent profile that I've ever smelt. Lasts all day on my skin, projects beautifully, and it also leaves a really nice kind of sheen on the skin from the high perfume oil concentration. So you know that scent is going to last a little bit longer. But I just have to say this lasts all day on my skin without a doubt. It's a bit of a beast mode. But let's talk about the notes a little bit more, because what I get is so much honey, sweet, sweet honey with cinnamon, With the tobacco is not too strong. I get some apple, a little bit of citrus. There's a hint of greenness here too. I'm getting cardamom, and that cardamom is a little bit spicy, but also adds a cooling effect to this fragrance. There's a sesame note in here, which adds this kind of rich, slightly gourmand yet dry texture to the fragrance. And then you've got lots of booziness in the base, so like a rum and vanilla with a little bit of resinous, maybe amber or benzoin. Truly, truly an amazing fragrance. And I don't give fragrances a 10 out of 10 often. And I feel like I've found so many hits recently, and this one is incredibly special. I can't wait to try more from the brand. I got a sample of Vanilla Supermassive as well, or Vanilla Supermassive. Can't wait to talk about that one. I've got, I think, a 7.5 or 10 ml atomizer of that one. I love that too. It's not a 10 out of 10 for me yet. This one is, but if you like your kind of rich honey, tobacco, boozy fragrances that are a little bit spicy, this is the one to check out. It doesn't smell similar to Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. You might be thinking that in your head, and I'm already kind of thinking about the comments that might be left. So I just want to say, I don't kind of get that vibes from it. Obviously it's in a similar family, but I don't get that. Maybe you're going to say, does it smell like Angel Share? Not really to me, maybe like 30% resemblance. This one's got a lot more kind of vanilla in here, a lot more honey, and I like the freshness up top from the apple, and there's a greenness to it. So if you want to see a more in-depth review of this one, please do let me know. I could talk about this one for a whole video, but this was Amber Superfluide. The next fragrance is Giardini di Toscana Blue Indaco, and it's my scent of the day. I've been wearing this one for the last 2 days. This one is definitely underrated from Giardini di Toscana. I've spoken a lot about Bianco Latte on my channel. I've also spoken about Bora Bora. I've spoken about Celeste. But I feel like this one is going to start to get a little bit more attention, especially for those of you that like a more kind of musky fragrance. But it's also got some almond in here, which gives it, I don't want to say a gourmand touch because it's not a gourmand fragrance. But if I could categorize it myself, I would almost say this is a soft gourmand musk fragrance, suitable for that kind of clean, fresh aesthetic. But it is also kind of sweet and a little bit gourmand. It's really, really unique. It's got a frangipani note in here, but it doesn't lean anything tropical, anything beachy. It just adds an almost waxy floral feel. I wouldn't say this is a floral fragrance, but it just adds a slight hint of that. I get a very soft, creamy almond note in here that doesn't pull like marzipan to me, not in the slightest. Almost like an almond milk. And then I get lots and lots of musk. It feels like there's maybe some ambroxan in here because this one projects beautifully. And then you've got a soft, subtle vanilla in the base, and it's not the kind of vanilla that's in Bianco Latte or Celeste or Bora Bora. This is more of a soft, easy, everyday vanilla in my opinion. I wouldn't say this is a vanilla fragrance as such. I would call it more of an almond musk with a little bit of vanilla, with a little bit of florals in here. But yeah, this one I think is so underrated, and I'm super curious if any of you have tried this one. I posted this on my Instagram yesterday as my scent of the day, and I had a couple of messages of people saying that they absolutely love this one too. So I'm curious if any of you have tried this. I think it's underrated from the house, and if you like a musky fragrance but are looking for something that's a little bit more unique, then this is the one to sample. So those were all of the fragrances that I wanted to showcase in today's video. I know I only spoke about 5 fragrances, but I wanted to keep this list a little bit more condensed to the fragrances that I feel are underrated and that are also a 10 out of 10. So I would love to hear your feedback on any of the fragrances that I showcased today, whether you like them or not, or if you wanted to try them. But what I want to know is, what fragrances do you feel are truly underrated and you would also give them a 10 out of 10? Please do let me know down in the comments below. And before I leave, I would also appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel. That's of course if you don't already. It will really help my channel out, and I would love to have more of you in this amazing, amazing community. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure as always. I hope to see you in a future video to come. Thank you so much and goodbye.